pens. Please take one and pass it. Somebody might have to share. Today's talk is wisdom in action. And another word for this, maybe in the Sanskrit or the Eastern metaphysical thought, is karma yoga. Yoga meaning union, and karma having that broad definition of the law, but also action and reaction. We're going to use some of the quotes, and then I'm going to fill in with some information. So would somebody volunteer to read the first quote to the big bold and halfway through the page?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
Quotes, the first page.
Mm-hmm.
Quotes for wisdom in action. At the first flutter of renascent life, the Svabhava, the mutable radiance of the immutable darkness, unconscious in eternity, passes. At every new birth of cosmos, from an inactive state into one of intense activity, that it differentiates and then begins its work through that differentiation. This work is karma. The cycles are also subservient to the effects produced by this activity. The one cosmic atom becomes 7 atoms on the plane of matter, and each is transformed into a center of energy. That same atom becomes 7 rays on the plane of a spirit, and the 7 creative forces of nature, radiating from the root essence, follow one the right, the other the left path, separate till the end of the kalpa, and yet are in close embrace. What unites them? Karma. The atoms emanated from the central point emanate in their turn new centers of energy, which under the potential breath of Fohat begin their work from within without, and multiply other minor centers. These, in the course of evolution and involution, form in their turn the roots or developing causes of new effects, from worlds and men-bearing globes down to the genera, the species, and classes of all the 7 kingdoms, of which we know only 4. For the blessed workers have received the Tayan Kam in the eternity, book of the aphorisms of Tsongkhapa. Tayan Kam is the power or knowledge of guiding the impulses of cosmic energy in the right direction.
Thank you. So, what does this really mean? We've been talking in weeks past about attention, action, how we guide our thought, how we get results from using the will, the direction of our thought, and so forth. So this is to tie in to that series and also to follow upon the last few weeks of cycles that we've been talking about. Because cycles are, as Madame Blavatsky said from The Secret Doctrine, this is in Volume 1, at the end of Volume 1, that it's all the work of karma. And the example of one who is perfected and understands karma and all action and cycles was given by Krishna in the reading. Not attached to action, doing these things, sitting, walking, breathing, but really at the same time it's action, but it's inaction. He's doing nothing while performing all these actions. Why is he doing nothing? Why is it called that? Why does he say it like that? He says it like that because he's acting on behalf of the all. He's acting from that logoic heart, the center of that heart, on behalf of all. So he's acting in accordance with karma. Therefore, he receives no effect from those actions. So what does it mean to be able to have wisdom when one acts, so that one doesn't create more karma, so that one is actually of benefit to oneself and others? This kind of wisdom in action is called karma yoga. Each human being, each human soul, we're sort of at the stage of being apprentices. We're learning what happens when we act a certain way and we get certain results. So it's the art of applying cosmic energy, because ultimately everything, all energy, all beings come from that one that becomes, into seven and is dispersed and differentiates. But it's still the one, so each action affects the all. So the Mahatmas have perfected action in consideration of how it will benefit all others, if it's in accord with the hopes and dreams of all beings. Otherwise, it's not supportable, and there will be a reaction and an imbalance, because it's been an action performed just for oneself is selfish and does not take into consideration the whole mass of beings. So this is at the scale of universals. Krishna is talking about the art of acting, so to speak, sacrificially. And this is really the history of evolution, because we're here to experience, and this is how we experience. We learn and we relearn and we relearn and we relearn sometimes the same old lessons. As we've talked about recently, that action, the energy of action, when it gets down to the human being, it's most easily stimulated by egotism, emotion. So what happens is we get this sense that our actions have really important, it's really important to us, it's momentous, there could be extreme consequences, and that's because we see it through the lens of the personal self. It becomes a drama, there's this, melodramatic response, there's chaotic events, we regard our choices as unique, unprecedented, momentous, and having extreme consequences, like kind of like a reality TV show. And in this, there's this element of unreality. This part is illusion. We take it so seriously because we're looking through that personal lens and seeing it as all important. So we have to remember that nature, to bring it back out to a larger perspective, that nature moves gradually. It works silently, and it gestates, seeds invisible within the soil. And this is a mirror of how the archetypal realms work, from the one to the many, from the Akashic down to the astral plane, and how our emotions are reflected from those archetypes. For example, if one was to study, say, earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, it shows that these huge movements take place in minute increments. But these little increments, if you take a large period of time, they accumulate, and they can set off a whole shifting of continents and abrupt precipitations and so forth. And this is what we see in the realm of effects. And just like in our personal lens, all that drama is on the realm of effects. We could also look at examples in history of people who were in a certain place at a certain time when momentous things were coming together, and they had a crisis, and they had to make important decisions. People like Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, they're suddenly caught in the illusion of this magnification of the importance of their event, of the events going on, and it's kind of like being caught in an exaggeration. We're looking at this little piece, and it seems so big, but we've forgotten the bigger picture. Usually these people can't gauge the significance of the actions and the events they initiate. And it just shows as an example of how karma works, how cycles work, how we need to sort of see it in the microcosm and in the macrocosm. So, as was said by the first speaker in the introduction, the Mahatmas are always influencing humanity. So we could say that they may have affected, some people may be inspired by the Mahatmas when they're, during these big global crises or historic moments. But we don't know for sure. But we know the Mahatmas influence myriad wills in myriad ways, mysterious ways to us, because what they do is they form a matrix of thought on the archetypal level and inspire those who are able to reach that level to maybe draw from that storehouse of wisdom. So the challenge for us as human beings with as we move through our personal histories and our evolutionary history, because this is just one life in an endless series on this journey we take, the challenge is how to act with the big picture in mind. It's just like that bumper sticker, think globally, act locally. So selfless service to the entire mass of human beings while being behind the scenes and letting others take the credit requires one to be constructive, anonymous, cool-headed, and as Krishna says in the Gita, without calmness, without tranquility, without some sort of inward strength rooted in that logoic center, it's impossible to not be caught in this realm of effects that just keep reproducing themselves. So we need insight, we need to watch, learn, patience, strength, not get into the temptation of, tit for tat, playing petty games. We need to be able to deliberate, and that way we can avoid crises. And then we work like nature works, like karma works, incrementally, quietly, but it accumulates over time. It's like if one acts based on reaction from the realm of effects, it sort of like is a cycle that keeps itself going. But if one is able to prevent a reaction, it doesn't stop just one, but it prevents many other reactions as well. If we think of it as, sort of fanning out, one can give birth to many, just like the universe does. So if we understand how the universe works and apply that to ourselves, we could also act in that manner, act as these forces of nature do. It can be helpful to study the mistakes of others, but also can be helpful to study wise men and avoidable mistakes, those who have gone before us, looking at perfected beings. What they do and what we're learning to emulate is a motivation to lay down the best that we can as a sacrifice for the sake of the whole, without drawing attention to oneself. When one can do this, one can become an instrument of a higher law or a collective force. To become one with this ideal is to free oneself from personal egotism, and it's a preparation. As was said earlier, we're apprentices. This prepares ourselves to be used by wisdom operating through karma.